mismanagement of funds, lack of transparency. These are just some of the institutional problems that people experience in many churches today. And this has caused an exodus of employees leaving churches, including myself. Leaving a church job is not an easy thing. Your community, spirituality, and skill set can all be intertwined, which can lead to an unhealthy transition. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you about some of the struggles I faced after quitting my church job of 2 years and some of the things they don't tell you about the transition.
Ruslan.
I was pursuing music full-time for years before I went to work at my church. I kind of hit pause on the trajectory of where I thought my music was going to go work on my church, but it benefited me because I had some momentum with a separate stream of income. Working at a church, though, really taught me a lot about work ethic, really taught me a lot about grit, really taught me a lot about focus and grind and juggling multiple things, because working at a church, a mini mega church as I would call it, a mega church is classified as 2,000 or more members. Well, anything under that that's still trying to do tech and video announcements and lights and stage, we would call that a mini mega church. It was hard in that, man, Christmas, forget about it. You're working your face off, and you're not just working your face off on Sundays. Oftentimes you're working your face off meeting with volunteers, making sure everyone feels cared for. You're there oftentimes late to set up props and set up stage design. You're working really long hours around Easter as well, because Easter was our big Super Bowl. So what would happen was you're basically locked in on Sunday, and if there's a Saturday night service, then there you are Saturday night as well. So you don't really get like a normal weekend, and then you're spurting and sprinting in these really laser sharp focused burst of like high output, and then you kind of can slow it down, but you're probably wearing multiple hats. And that's what I was at. I was the video announcements guy, where I was overseeing having to shoot weekly announcements, making sure that they got to me early enough so I actually knew what the announcements were, meaning that if I got to get a video turned around for Sunday morning, I have to get all the information to shoot it by like Wednesday so I can edit it so I can have it Sunday. Then you're talking about the broadcast, the volunteers for the broadcast, the subsequent uploads, like edits on the broadcast. Before we had a video switcher, I'd have to manually edit multiple camera angles. That took forever. So I'm wearing so many different hats. I'm doing so many different things on top of teaching 6 to 9 times a year from a Sunday morning platform. It was a lot, but man, did it teach me grit. And so I did this for about 2 years and simultaneously still pursuing music on the side. Now, when I quit my job from 2015 to 2017, 18-ish, I ran an independent boutique Christian label, if you will. And I don't want to get into the particulars of that all right now, but if you want to see like an exhaustive videos of what it was like working in different groups, working with different artists, and why I stopped that and why I'll never do it again, let me know in the comments section. But I transitioned 2015, and thankfully we had 6 months of income saved up. We had no debt. We were stable financially, and we took that plunge. It was really my wife that encouraged me to do that. What happened was, though, I jumped right into touring. I went on 2 national tours within the first 8 months of me quitting my job, travel all around the country, come back, and then leave again. A couple months, we're back out on the road. We're back into doing stuff. This is 2016. So it was a lot from a physical standpoint, and then we kind of got to chill and work on albums, and then you're back into releasing music. I went from like hard grinding at church to now I gotta grind really hard, and there's no safety net, there's no stability, there's no check there, there's no consistency. It's, man, some months you might have a really good month when you go on tour, other months you may not, right? And I didn't really catch this for a while, and I'll get more into that in a little bit, so make sure you watch till the end of the video. But there's this passage that really kind of came alive for me as I grew, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I think it's important, especially if you're transitioning away from a church, especially if you're transitioning into doing your own thing. Ecclesiastes 10 verse 10. If the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success. If you are trying to chop down a tree and your axe is dull, it's gonna require more force. It's gonna require more strength because you're just grinding super duper hard. And recently, I kind of connected this to this Abraham Lincoln quote that said, if I only had an hour to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 45 minutes sharpening my axe. I didn't know anything about sharpening my axe, taking care of my mental health, taking care of my physical health. And that really did get me in serious trouble with regards to transitioning from working at a church and then transitioning into doing my own thing. And I had to get creative. I had to really squeeze every single dollar from every single opportunity I could come across. So I had a couple revenue streams already that I had built up, like doing shows and selling my music on stores like iTunes. But when the streaming side of music took over around 2016, I had to be sober and honest with myself that I wasn't going to earn enough money off of those two revenue streams to provide for a family. So after tons of trial and error, this ultimately led me to create the Bless God Shop. The name is directly from Luke chapter 2, verse 28, that tells the story of a man named Simeon who was in the temple and encountered baby Jesus. And when he saw him, he took him up in his arms and he blessed God, simply meaning that he brought glory and praise to God. And the practical application for all of us is that when we encounter Jesus, we are to live our lives in a way that brings honor and glory to him. So if you want to pick up some apparel as a daily reminder to live your life in a way that blesses God, check out the link in the pinned comment or in the description below. We built up the merch store. We built up all of these other revenue streams, and at the time I didn't really focus on my own career path as a musician. And to be completely frank with you guys, I quit my job 2015, summer of 2015, and our savings, our 6 months of living expenses, completely depleted in half within the first 6 months. And thankfully those tours kicked in, meaning that we were living hand to mouth. We were living show to show a lot of times. We were living, hey, man, gotta drop an album, gotta go put out some merch, gotta go do some things. That it is brutal in terms of the lack of stability and the lack of consistency, and not knowing that most small businesses do fail. And this is coming from someone that, like, I was already planning and doing stuff with my music career. I was already doing shows. I already had somewhat of a fan base. I already had great relationships to book shows. If you have that stability, if you're thinking about quitting your job, make sure, I would say at the bare minimum, that you're debt free. One, make sure that you have some living expenses saved up because you are going to deplete through those. Make sure you have some sort of means to jump into doing something, even if you aren't making it from the revenue sources you thought you would. And oftentimes desperation can lead us to make some stupid decisions, but sometimes desperation can lead to innovation and us making some really wise decisions in terms of how to spread things out and be more intentional. And this was the key. For me, the financial side didn't really get stable again until 5 years in. 5 years in. And what was really the tipping point that switched everything over is honestly, and you guys might think this is crazy, I referenced that verse in Ecclesiastes, but it's honestly when I was able to get a hold of my health, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, get back into a healthy spiritual place, because I didn't understand what it was going to be like transitioning from a church that then had a pastor who was forced to step down, and there were some really questionable things with the way they handled money. I didn't understand that all that was going to take a toll on my mental health and my spiritual health. I didn't understand that the hustle culture, Gary V explosion, grind, work your face off, wasn't congruent to someone that had a young family that needed me to care for them. And so once 2019 came around, that's when I really started taking my fitness, my health seriously. I started tracking what I was eating. I started to work out and strength train. I got back into playing basketball, got into a routine, lost a ton of weight. The change on my physical body allowed me to just to think more clearly, think more creatively. And that's honestly, though I was dabbling in YouTube for a while, I cracked 5,000 subscribers in August 2018. The clarity that I got from getting my fitness and my health together from the end of 2018 to 2019, all of that allowed me to create this new way of making content on YouTube, which is doing what I'm doing now, leveraging the live side of YouTube in order to transition and make a lot of videos based on what I'm an expert at, and then build an audience and build this as a revenue stream. when the lockdown started and I couldn't do any more shows. So I had to get innovative, jumped into the YouTube thing, and this is by far has been substantially more successful than anything I ever did in music. In part because of my fitness, learning to get that in order was huge in that regard. And then two, also learning what my skill set was really worth, which a lot of it I gleaned from working on staff at a church and the grit that developed in me, but I didn't really know how to put it all into practice and glue it all together, if that makes sense, right? So like when those two things clicked, when I understood my own value in the marketplace because I had this skill of a unicorn, if you will, from working at a mini mega church, and then I said, okay, but I gotta get healthy. I gotta make sure that my blade is sharp. I gotta make sure that I'm sharp up here. I gotta make sure that I'm solid emotionally, I'm solid spiritually. Not understanding a lot of the stuff you suppress, whether it's your physical health, whether it's your emotional health, whether it's your mental health, spiritual health, you may suppress those things, but those are the things that'll really be the bottlenecks that'll prevent you from breaking through. And once I got my fitness in order, once I got solid again with just a consistent reading, scripture, worship, living my life onto the glory of God, even in things like fitness, even in things like getting up earlier and those keystone habits that we talked about in my Master My Habits course that I put together with my therapist, all those things click when things locked down and I was already dabbling. I think I was at maybe 10,000 subscribers in 2020. I just put my foot on the gas. It really picked up, but it was because I had the skill set. It was because I had the expertise. It was because I was already grinding away for so long that I really just need to refine it. And so there's a lot, man, that comes with struggling from a spiritual standpoint, that may come with struggling from what is my value in the marketplace? How do I navigate? Do I go get another job? Do I go drive for Uber? Right? There's so many different things, man, but by the grace of God, things are better than they've ever been, substantially more stable than I was when I worked at a church, substantially more stable than when I ran a boutique label and traveled and toured, and ultimately better on my marriage, better on my family, and better overall on my spirituality and my relationship with Jesus. So if you found this valuable, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Only about 50% of the people who watch this channel are subscribed. And if you want to know the details of why I quit my church before I got fired, check out this video over here.